Now, is that better? Is that better?
Yeah.
We're going to keep it just like that. All right? My, look at everybody here. Look at everybody. I am so impressed. On a Sunday morning, Governor, you got to see to believe everybody who is so excited about seeing you and the lady next to you. Now, you know, we have a special guest here today. We have a special guest here today, and I'm going to tell you right now that I can feel the excitement. Can you feel that something big's going to happen today? Something very important is going to happen today. And it's going to happen right here at Century Village. And Marvin Manning, stand wherever you are. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. My name is Maria Sachs. And I'm a new state senator. And I want you to know I am humbled and privileged to be here today because of the legacy and the tradition that has been left by one man. One man whose first public appearance outside of Washington, D.C. since he left Washington, D.C. is with you today, right here. And you know something big and something exciting is going to happen today. This is a man who is no stranger to Century Village. This is a man who in the year 2000, remember? Let's just take a minute and go back to the year 2000. When everybody was counting Chads, Chad became a new man on campus. Okay, everybody knew about hanging Chads and some of the other. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, I'm going to talk right into it. I'm going to stand right by the stand. All right, on these Chads, we know that we Democrats lost that election. And everyone in the entire world were watching us to see how we were going to handle it. And do you remember a woman who's a great Democrat by the name of Carol Roberts? Carol Roberts. She said, you can take me to jail, but I will stand here and I will count every vote. And yet we still lost the election. We still lost that election, and it was a travesty of justice. But there was one very brave Democrat who stood up to that, and he said, this will never happen again. And that brave Democrat went on every news station. He sued in every court he could until he was able to pass a law for the entire state of Florida that started right here in Palm Beach County, and that was the paper trail. Ladies and gentlemen, because of this one Democrat with so much courage, the entire state of Florida has a paper trail. And then later, when during the impeachment hearings of President William Jefferson Clinton, and he couldn't find a friend in the world, and some of his own people were going up against him, there was one Democrat who stood up for our president. And was he shy? Did he say, oh, just amongst us, I'll tell you that? No. He went on every national news station in the world and promoting his principles. There is never a Democrat who I will stand with who will test the air and say, is this the popular thing to do? Or is this the right thing to do? And this one Democrat has always stood up to what is the right thing to do. And during President Bush, when we had issues with our veterans, and they were fighting without the proper armor, there was one Democrat with courage who stood up for them. And then when it came to Social Security, and I know about the notch babies. You know about the notch babies? Yes. We know about Social Security in this room. My dad suffered because of that. He was born in 1970. He was on the notch babies. There was one Democrat with courage who fought for Social Security, the Social Security Forever Act. And he stood up for Social Security. And then, of course, can anybody deny the friendship that this man has with the State of Israel? The State of Israel has a champion and has a hero. And it doesn't make any difference if there are so many people who are against her. It doesn't make any difference if there are so many people who will criticize her. Israel always knows that there is one Democrat with courage who doesn't test the waters and say, oh, this is a popular thing to do. He does it because it's the right thing to do. My fellow Democrats, I am humbled to be following in the legacy of this man, and I am privileged to give you our favorite son, our fire-eating liberal, fire-breathing, fire-eating, fire-extinguishing, you name it. This man will stand up, and you know why I say he will stand up? Because he has stood up for it. This is our own Robert Wexler, everybody. Robert Wexler.
Maria. Thank you, Maria, who does an extraordinary job in Tallahassee for not just her constituents, but for all Floridians. This is a bit of an emotional moment for me. In many respects, my political career, in many respects,
the switch. She's not understand the switch.
Can you hear me? All right.
Now.
Hello? All right. Don't move. In many respects, in 1987, you can do the math, 23 some odd years ago, I had very dark hair, probably about 20 pounds lighter. But I came here to Century Village. There was an extraordinary couple, Ronnie and Phil Loeb, who many of you may remember. A gentleman named Joe Tarnow, and a group of ladies, Edith, and Edith. And I learned politics on the couches here in Century Village. And to come back today and do something, quite frankly, that I never thought that I would do. I grew up in a home where Hubert Humphrey was the best thing since sliced bread. My father, who's sitting right here, taught me never to cross a picket line. I'm a Democrat through and through. I don't even think I ever dated anyone who wasn't a Democrat. But Governor, there's something else I learned from the extraordinary people here in Century Village, many of which fought World War II and fought the Korean conflict and literally rebuilt this country after the Depression. They fought for working people. They dreamed about what their children and their grandchildren and now their great-grandchildren can achieve working through the American dream. But the thing I always knew, even though these men and women, so many of them, are die-hard Democrats, even though Hello?
Yeah.
Even though so many are die-hard Democrats, most of all, these men and women are patriots. They're the finest American citizens you will find everywhere, anywhere. These are men and women who cherish this nation, cherish their freedom, cherish their liberty, cherish the opportunity that this nation gave to them, oftentimes as immigrants or the first generation of immigrants. And what they taught me is there is a special time in which elected officials and people that people look to have to put country before party. And this is one of those times. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to endorse Charlie Crist to be our next United States Senator. I'm here to endorse Governor Crist because he's earned it. He has truly earned it. And let me share, if I could, some thoughts about why this man has earned our support and vote. In fact, I would argue, in many respects, this gentleman has earned your support and vote more than any other elected official who has ever come to this Century Village. Because he's earned it. He's earned it, not the easy way, but he's earned it under political fire. Maria spoke about the election of 2000. This isn't an exercise in going backwards. This is an exercise in going forward. But Maria was very kind in her remarks and talked about my involvement in making certain that Florida would have a voter-verified paper trail so that every voter, Republican, Democrat, Independent, young, more mature, every voter would know that his or her vote would be counted just the way they anticipated. But the truth of the matter is, yes, I filed lawsuits in the state courts and the federal courts. We lost at the trial level, the appellate level, and then the Florida Supreme Court and the United States Supreme Court. I filed bills in Washington, but none of that succeeded. There wasn't success until this gentleman, newly elected governor of our state, had several conversations with me and said something that, while may seem so self-evident, may seem to be such common sense, but the fact is, for several years, it wasn't that at all. And what Governor Crist said was, the right to vote and the right to have your vote counted, it's not a Republican right, it's not a Democratic right, it's an American right. And that's what he was going to do as the governor of Florida. And I remember saying, but Charlie, the previous Republican governor, he made a career out of opposing this effort. There was a dramatic majority in the Florida legislature of Republicans. I said, Charlie, please, make certain you're not doing something that is going to harm you politically. And he said something you don't hear too often. You don't hear it too often in Tallahassee, and you don't hear it very often in Washington. He said, I don't care what the political consequences are. This is an issue that's right for the people of Florida. I'm going to do it, and I'll make my difference, and I stand that way. Why do I say Charlie Crist has earned our vote for the United States Senate? As much as the well-intentioned and extraordinarily skilled Democratic legislators like Maria tried. Florida, in fact, was a laboratory not too long ago. The Florida legislature passed the most oppressive legislation in the nation with respect to a woman's right to choose. It disrespected women in a way that no other state had dared to do. That bill wasn't stopped by millions of people, or hundreds of thousands of people, or 1,000 people, or 1,000,000 of people. It was stopped by one man, Charlie Crist. And when the public education system of Florida came under assault by those same very people, when the teachers of our great state were disrespected and literally put in handcuffs to practice their trade, one man picked up a pen, vetoed the bill, and saved our public education system. I would respectfully ask, are there many men and women? In fact, is there any other man or woman in the modern history of Florida who has done more to protect our quality of life, protect our freedom, whether it's our freedom and liberty to vote, or a woman's right to choose, or the opportunity that all public school children deserve? Has any man in our state, any woman in our state done more to protect us than Charlie Crist? Not a one. One last thing. Two last things, actually. Two last things. If I had to pick my number one reason for being in Washington, for the extraordinary amount of time that you permitted me to be there, I would say that my number one charge was to protect Social Security. And throughout the years, that most finest of public programs, Social Security, has come under assault from so many different directions. But at each stage of the way, everywhere I went, whether it's here in Century Village, whether it's in Kings Point and Delray or Tamarack, whether it's all over Boynton Beach or Lake Worth or Deerfield Beach, wherever it may be, people would always say to me, "Wexler, Wexler, keep their hands off of my Social Security." Ladies and gentlemen, there's just one man in this race who will make certain in Washington they keep their hands off of your Social Security, and it's Charlie Crist. One last thing. And I neglected to wish everyone a happy Sukkot and a Lashana Tova for those who celebrate. But it's not just the woman's right to choose that's under assault. It's not just our public education system that's under assault. It's not just our way of life. But there's a little tiny nation of almost 7 million people which finds itself the victim of a delegitimization campaign throughout too many spots on this globe. And those men and women that you elect this November will be in charge of the front line of protecting and preserving that extraordinary state of Israel. his inauguration speech when he became governor, Charlie was kind enough to invite me to come to Tallahassee, and he told me that he wanted to announce in his inaugural address that his first trip as a governor, a trade mission, he didn't want to take it to the biggest market in the world. He didn't want to take it to the closest geographical spot. He wanted to visit the state of Israel. And Charlie kept his word, and I had the opportunity and privilege of traveling with Charlie for several days throughout Israel. This gentleman understands the unbreakable bond between the United States and Israel. He doesn't just understand it, he lives it, he breathes it, he believes in it, and when he gets to Washington, in this muddled, often very angry environment, there's going to be one clear voice of sanity. One voice that says, I'm going to do what's right by the people of Florida. I'm going to do what's right for the people of Florida when it comes to jobs and education and health care. And I know as a lifelong Democrat, I will most likely never do this again. But I proudly endorse the U.S. Senate in Florida this November the man who has earned your vote, Charlie Crist. Thank you so much.
Wow, that's you're a tough act to follow, Congressman, but I will attempt to do so. Isn't he a wonderful man? Please give another round of applause. Let me take care of some important business first. I want to introduce you to my wife, Carol, your First Lady. Isn't she beautiful? Yeah. It's so beautiful. She is a nice Jewish girl. That's true. I married up. Yeah, Carol grew up on Long Island and attended. Yeah, I know. Attended Mount Sinai Temple there, and wonderful lady, brilliant, much more attractive, much smarter, and much better than her husband. And I love you with all my heart. She's not used to all this politics stuff, but she's very, very good at it and wonderful about it. I want to thank Maria, Senator-elect Maria Sachs, great friend. Thank you again for being here, and thank you for endorsing me as well. And Bert Aronson, thank you, my friend. Marvin, so many great people here. I'm grateful to you all for your counsel and your guidance. I learned a long time ago, and then I'm going to talk about the congressman for a minute. I learned a long time ago this lesson and this fact. God gave me 2 ears and 1 mouth. And I tried to respect his ratio, which simply means listen twice as much as I talk. It's amazing how much you can learn if you're just willing to listen. And that leads me to my friend, Robert Wexler. Every time I say your name, it's going to happen. The congressman and I served in the state senate together years and years ago. And we both had darker hair then. And I remember many times talking to the congressman, Sonny, Mr. Wexler, thank you for being here again. We enjoyed some time the other day. God bless you, sir. And thank you for raising such an amazing young man. I know how proud you are of him. But I remember we would talk often about, the political issues of the day and what was going on. And I remember we developed this friendship, much of it based around humor, to be quite honest with you. We like to laugh. And in our business, if you don't, you're in trouble. But After I got elected governor, the congressman came to me and we started talking about the paper trail issue and ballot integrity and how sacred democracy truly is and how we as Americans should and do cherish it. It is precious, the right that we have to select our leaders. Nobody tells us who the leaders are. You do, the people. And I'll never forget a great quote from a great president of our country who said at Gettysburg that government should in fact be of the people, by the people, for the people. Abraham Lincoln. And I remember talking to Robert about this ballot issue, this paper trail issue, and how important it was to our Florida. I didn't want to have Florida embarrassed again like we were back in 2000. You know, once in a while you have a close election. I would suspect that's going to be the case here. And if there has to be a recount, it's just common sense to me what the congressman was talking about. You ought to have something to count. And that's why the paper trail just made perfect sense to me. Common sense. Something unusual in government. Common sense in government don't always meet. But with Robert, a Democrat, and myself, then a Republican, we found common ground as Americans. And what was right for our state that we love and care about so much, and didn't want to have her embarrassed again. And so I pushed for the paper trail at the congressman's insistence, and we got it done. And so never again. Never again will Florida suffer that. You know, hanging chads and judges looking and squinting and trying to figure out what's going on. This is too precious an issue to let it get tied down in politics. It is too important a right to let that happen. Just like Social Security is too important a right. As Robert was kind enough to share with you, I'm the only candidate in this race who said that he will keep his hands off and fight others from getting their hands on Social Security and Medicare. It's too precious to you. You learned it. It's your right. You paid into it your entire life. One of the few programs, actually, that's working in Washington. And what happens? The politicians attack it. It's bizarre. But the congressman and I have the good sense, because of good upbringing, to understand that you need to do what is in the common sense way, what is right, and what makes sense, and what is appropriate. Let me talk about the passion that this congressman has. I've learned a lot from him. An awful lot. Not only in the area of politics, but in the area of religion. He is a very devout Jewish follower. We're here on Sunday, not Saturday. There's a reason. Because he puts his family and his religion first and foremost. And I have such enormous respect for him for that. And when we went to Israel together, it was in May of '07. We had a wonderful time seeing this incredible place. Probably the best ally America has ever had. The state of Israel. This little place that is an island of democracy, that without America's help and friendship would be very, very difficult, if not impossible, for Israel to be able to continue to be free, to simply be free. We went to Tel Aviv, we went to Jerusalem, we went all over Israel. And it was an amazing experience for me. It was also a great experience for our Florida. The congressman taught me something else, because I listened. He said, you know, Charlie, there's a tradition here in Jerusalem. They have this wall, the Western Wall. And he said it is a very sacred tradition that when you're here, you write down a prayer on a piece of paper. And you take that prayer to the wall, and you insert it in the wall, the holiest of the holies, so that God will hear it and hopefully listen. So I thought about what Robert had said. It was in the evening. I went up to my hotel room. I thought, I got to write down a prayer. The next morning we were going to go together to the wall and place it in the wall. And so I thought, well, it's May, just the beginning of hurricane season. I thought, you know, I'll start out by thanking. Gratitude is extremely important, and being gracious. And so I said, Dear God, let's wrote this down. Dear God, thank you for all that you have done for all of us. Please, God, protect our Florida from storms and other difficulties. Charlie. So the next morning, you can't make this stuff up. This really happened. The next morning, the congressman and I go to the wall. We placed it in the wall together. You know, that was May, June, July, August, September, October. No hurricane. God is good. Well, as much as I enjoyed going to Israel for a trade mission, as my first trade mission as your governor, I couldn't go back there the next year. But I thought, this is a very good thing. We need to repeat this the following May. So Senator Nan Rich told me she was going, Bert. And I said, well, Nan, I have a favor. You're going to be like an ambassador for the state. I gave her the note, the same prayer, and I said, please place it in the wall. This was May of '08. She did. June, July, August, you know the rest. No hurricane. '09 comes. I'm almost done. Bear with me. It's helped Florida life. The next year, '09, a friend of mine, Ike Fisher, was going. And so I gave him the same prayer. And I said, Ike, would you please place this in the western wall? He said, no. I'm going to have my son do it. I said, okay, that's great. And he did. May, June, July, August, no hurricane. And we had a few before that, as you know. Finally this year, my last year as your governor. And what a privilege it is to serve you. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Rabbi Yorkman in Tallahassee, a good friend of both Carol and me, told me he was going. I gave him the prayer. It's now almost September. You know the rest. So, knock on wood, it'll all be good. I'm running as an independent. I have, thank you.
Okay.
I have, don't.
Look.
Hello? How's it doing? There we go. I'm running as an independent. I made my declaration of independence back in April. And I feel so liberated as a result of that. And what the congressman talked about, you know, and what he was so kind to do here today, to endorse me in this campaign for the United States Senate, I will never forget this day. This is a pivotal, important moment, as he said. It is a moment. I watch Washington, D.C., just like I'm sure many of you, and see the arguing and the finger pointing day after day after day. And I wonder to myself as I watch that, you know, are they more concerned with what the party bosses in Washington tell them than they are about the people here in Century Village? And unfortunately, I have to conclude that it's the former. That you know, these party people have gotten into a foxhole. And if they dare to bring their head up, you know, there's hell to pay. And it's wrong. We're Americans first. We're all Americans. And that's why running as an independent, I'm the only one in this race doing that. Not many people have. I have a Democratic opponent and I have a Republican opponent. And they have already gotten their positions staked out. What they will do and who they will listen to. And I have staked out my position, who I will listen to. And it will only be you. It will only be the people. I've studied some history, and I remember our first and last independent president of the United States was a guy named George Washington. Our founding father, not one of the founding fathers, the founding father of our great country. And he talked about the possibility of this problem. If the parties got too strong, he was experiencing it in his cabinet, in arguments between Alexander Hamilton and Thomas Jefferson. And they got pretty vicious at each other. And I'm seeing that about me on TV now. And that's part of it. That's okay. I understand. But George Washington said in his farewell address as our nation's first president, and I'm paraphrasing here, But basically he said, if we allow the political parties to get too strong, we may literally cripple the country we have just created. We're there right now. We are there right now in our nation's history because they can't get anything done on immigration reform. You know, they're not sure what to do about Social Security. Robert and I know, protect it. You know, they're not sure what to do when it comes to health care. They have to have just a party line vote. You know, there are things that we can do to improve all of these things if we simply put you first. And don't have to say, I got to do what the leader tells me to do. No, you don't. You got to do what the people deserve to have done. That's what this is supposed to be about. You've been very patient. I'm very grateful. And I heard we ran out of food, and I'm sorry about that. But I never expected this kind of a crowd. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Let me finish by saying something about why public service is so important to me, and why it's such an honor to be your governor and to have been your attorney general after Bob Butterworth, and your commissioner of education, a public school kid myself, and to have the honor to serve in the state senate with Robert Wexler. It's a story about a boy. It's a story about a boy named Adam who came to this country when he was only 14 years old in 1912. And when young Adam came, 14, came alone. When Adam came to this country, he could not speak the language. He did not know anyone, and he virtually had no money. But Adam had something more powerful than those three things that we all share. Adam had a dream. He had a dream about coming to a place called America, where he had heard that if you worked hard, lived by the rules, and tried to do what was right, that you could do better for yourself and for your family. So when Adam got here, he worked hard. He shined shoes for a living. And he only made $5 a month. A month. I know the economy is tough now, but can you imagine that? Well, he was frugal. He saved his money and was eventually able to open up a small cafe, and he started living the American dream that he had heard about. But he and his wife also understood the importance of education. Robert talked about how important education is to me and why I vetoed that bill. He and his wife made sure that all 7 of their children got a good education. One of them became a pharmacist. One of them became the profession that I honor so much, a school teacher. And one of them became a doctor. The doctor is my father. Adam was my grandfather. Because of that personal story, that's why I appreciate so much the opportunity to be a public servant in this country that provided that opportunity to my grandfather and probably everybody else in this room or one of your relatives. That's what America is all about. And I know it is. My grandfather's not here any longer. He passed away a number of years ago. But he's here. Right here. And I know that he can see this. And I know that he is proud that his grandson is now the 44th governor of the 4th largest state in the United States of America. Only in America can that happen. My friends, I am on a journey. And I don't have either party. All I have are the people. And that's all I belong to are the people. I need your help to win this race for the U.S. Senate, and I will not let you down. I will not let you down. Come with me. Join me on this journey. Help us get elected. If I win, it's not my victory. It's your victory. God bless you, and thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. Thank you.